Hi, this is Helen Jiang. Today I'm going to talk about workplace gender inequality. And I'm going to start by defining what gender is. So gender is socially constructed and is dependent upon everyone constantly doing gender. Social construction of gender means that there is no inherent truth to gender, and gender is just a part of a stratified and structured system. Unlike sex, that relates to biological differences, gender is not based on biology. Rather, it is constructed social expectations and norms. So when you look at the line here, socially constructed rules and behavior based on assigned sexes at birth, this means that children are assigned gender rules from the moment when their sexes are revealed, and they're expected to behave accordingly while they grow up. So this means, to further explain this, is that when you're born as a male, you are expected to, you know, take over the male rule and, you know, be masculine. And if you're female, you're supposed to, take over you should act like a expected female figure, which is femininity. And it is so important because it's tied to power, privilege, and oppression. So yeah, and just how the society works as a whole by categorizing people into two gender roles. And it's just easier for the society to function that way. You know how we have a boy and girls bathroom. It's just the easiest way to differentiate people so that the society works on this kind of rules, right, that we set. So moving on to the next slide. People often use an agreed upon set of characteristics and codes constructed by the society to define male and female. So if you look at the figure on the left side, you see a woman inside of the box, right? And they're usually considered as women they have acceptable behavior, rules, and attitudes, and just the ways of being. And the women that are outside the box, they're considered as women that have unacceptable behavior, rules, attitudes, and ways of being. So women are expected to be soft and submissive, and they have been traditionally viewed as the one to take charge of the domestic work, such as caring and educating children, preparing their food, right, and raising livestock, completing household chores, and so on. So the woman that does those kind of stuff are women that are considered the inside of the box, considered to be inside of the box. And the woman that does not follow all those rules and just follow the expected female role are considered to be outside the box. So for example, just to make it clear, so usually the family in a family, the husband supports the family by going to work and paying off all the bills, right? But if a woman wants to do that, and so that they don't do as much domestic works and educate their children, they don't do all those stuff, then they're considered as women that are outside the box. And how do we set our standard is by setting gender rules like this, so that so we can see if this woman is being traditionally viewed where they're just someone who wants to do their own stuff. I don't know if that makes sense, but and same for the man that has this, that pays off their work, who supports the family, pays the bills, are women that are men that are considered inside of the box because they have very acceptable behavior, rules, and attitudes, and ways of being. And for men that are not, they're also considered as the outsider. So, for example, I have, like, it's a very personal example, but I have a really good gay best friend, and he does not do the stuff that the men usually do because he's a homosexual, right? And I don't think there's a problem with that because I feel like he never get to choose what gender he wants to be. He was just being put into this category by the society when he was born, and he has been facing a lot of pressure and stresses from his parents of confessing the truth, telling his parents about the truth, which has been really, really difficult because he is not idealized male figure that his parents thought he would be. So this has been really, really hard. So gender, where is gender? Gender is literally everywhere. It influences us in physical spaces, social activities, sports, family, and so on. So gender language is also everywhere, to the point that most people don't recognize the certain words or phrases are gender. Think about it. When we sign up on Facebook, on various other social media websites, it is required to distinguish between he and she, right? And this is something that I have been personally trying to fix after I've been taking gender class, because after being a gender major, because I know how important and sometimes offensive that could be to some people, that they are not technically female or male, but we're just calling them by their physical traits, which is not fair, right? And why? And now we're gonna talk about the actual stuff when we're talking about, gender inequality in workplace. So if you look at this graph right here, despite the tremendous progress made in the struggle for gender inequality, women worldwide still face institutional barriers and discrimination in the workplace. A significant number of women, even those in leadership positions, still face a wide variety of challenges in the workplace, including unequal pays, barriers to promotion and raises, limited career advancement opportunities, and unconscious gender bias, among many other issues. And compared with their male counterparts, women are more likely to experience the sticky floor and the glass ceiling. And why is that? Because if you look at the graph on the left, it says percentage of manager position held by men versus women. The man is 62% versus women, that's 38%. So obviously the percentage of man is definitely greater than women. Explains that how men get more opportunity in workplace because they're man. And if you look at this graph, it's just a graph of all the women from different races. It's just a comparison graph, but you can see definitely the white women are doing the best, right, among all the other race, right? And we see how, and that number 79 is the percentage, average percentage that I've taken out from all the other from all the women. So it's still lower than men, right? Which is 179. Okay. Next, on average, women in the US are paid 20 less percent than men, and it is helpful to adopt the intersectional way of thinking. Women of minority groups suffer more, and the gap is even worse. So what it's saying is that if you break it down by race and ethnicity, the gap is even worse, because Black women are paid 39 less percent and the Latinas are paid 47 less percent than white women. Think about that. And in particular, during the global pandemic, women face higher chances of getting laid off and other work-related problems. At the same time, the pandemic further holds women back in the workplace, as they often need to work a double shift in the home. While women have to work, they seem to naturally take on the burden of unpaid domestic work, such as child care and housework. So women that has their own job has to not only do the work at their job, and also when they come back home, they have to take care of their children, and they don't get credits for that, and they take the burden of the unpaid domestic work, such as those stuff, so that they think it's they just kind of think that it's their responsibility. And where are those expectations come from? So it's not fair, right? Because women has to do double the job, which is not, it's just something that the society has put on women that has made them feel so hard, but they can't complain because that's just how this kind of things just being worked for centuries, and they are just doing it. So sorry, just caught a cold. So moving on. Heterosexuality is a social construct of male power and is the basis of patriarchal and white supremacist capitalism, which contributes to the phenomenon of gender inequality in the workplace. Sexually describes one's sexual identity that might or might not align with sex or gender. Similar to gender and race, sexuality is not determined by biological traits, but it's a violent political institution socially constructed through social norms, ideology, and physical coercion. Yeah, coercion. Heterosexuality is not a normative or intrinsic in human instinct. Rather, heterosexuality is a man-made political institution. Most societies institutionalized heterosexuality is the dominant set of mutually reinforcing ideologies, and socially sanctioned homosexuality has been endorsed. So yeah. Heterosexuality as an institution consists of not simply the sexual acts between two people of different sex, but an entire system of rights, obligations, norms, emotions, habits of action, and economic arrangements. And yet, it should also be noted that not all women are oppressed in the same way. As I explained earlier, although all women suffer from systemic inequalities, they experience inequalities at different level of intensities because gender also interacts with other social identities to shape bias and discrimination. And the concept of intersectionality highlights that there are different social constructions that give privileges to some people while denying them to others. And for example, working women of color suffer both from sexism and racism, and non-straight women also suffer from gender-based discrimination. And intersectionality identifies multiple factors of advantage and disadvantage, and these are all the factors that might cause this happen. And why should we care about gender diversity in the workplace? Promoting gender inequality, promoting gender equality in the workplace improves organizational and financial performance and facilitates more creative and effective decision making. I can't talk today. Increase innovation while also lowering risk, and decreases the gender wage gap and other inequalities. So recognizing, I can't talk today really, recognizing the importance of gender diversity in the workplace, what should be done to close the gender gap? At an individual level, it is helpful to adhere. It's helpful to. Oh yeah, sorry. Recognize. I can't talk today. Recognizing the importance of gender diversity in the workplace, what should be done to close the gender gap? At individual level, it is helpful to hear the principle of notice, ask, feel, decide, and act. We should become more aware of our surrounding, ask more questions, feel as if we were in other people's shoes, right? Make decisions and take actions to push for greater gender equality in the workplace. And at the organizational level, businesses should ensure internal processes are fair, invest more in employee training, give employees greater flexibility in work, and engage leadership to provide employees with more mentorship and opportunities. So they need people to actually talk to. And some might feel that it's really overwhelming, but some are they're just keep going, even though they might feel a little bad about all this kind like they might feel pressure and stressed, but they're just keep going because they don't know there is actually a way that they can actually complain and talk about it. So we should encourage organizations and institutions to just make sure that just to do something like invest more employee training and give employee greater flexibility. Like if this household, this mom has to maybe do something while she's doing her job. She is, this can be flexibly, adjusted. Like I just feel like organizations and institutions um, should give more excuses or should let mother, you know, have more excuses because they're doing double the work, if that makes sense. Yeah, let's move on to the next. So lastly, I want to say, let's be aware of gender. Gender inequality is shaped by the greater social structures and forces, as well as the neutralization of hierarchical binary system, which functions to justify the unequal distribution of resources and power, including women's power and access to resources in the workplace. Women have been traditionally viewed as subordinate position compared with men because of their lack of access to private properties and other production-related resources. The institution of marriage, family, and heterosexuality further widened the gap between them and their male counterparts. Here, I advocate you to be more aware of gender and taking a intersectional approach to promote gender equality. Thank you so much, and thank you for listening.